You having trouble with that form? Okay. She said she'd take care of it. All right, good deal. Okay, let's get started today. I want to remind you, and I put it on Canvas for you, the 5 bonus points if you can't attend the career fair tomorrow. Today is the STEM career fair. So if you go to the Career Services website, you can see the information here. So today's the STEM career fair. Tomorrow is the All Majors career fair. And then it looks like they've got a variety of other items. What? There will be somewhere. Yeah, there will be a list of who's there. And one thing that I would remind you of is as you're looking for internships, as you're looking for jobs, that type of thing, the Career Services Office, they are a fantastic source of up-to-date information in terms of putting together your resume, putting together a cover letter, that type of thing. Because, I mean, I have a lot of students who come to me and say, hey, would you look at my resume? And I'll be happy to look at your resume. But resumes change. And so what was, the in resume 5 years ago is different than today or 10 years ago or whatever. So, I'll be happy to look at your resume and I'll look over it very carefully and see if I think anything needs to be added. But the format, the positioning, that type of thing changes. And so you would do yourself a favor by going to Career Services, registering for their, I think it's called Career Tracks, and that way you have access to their help with your resume and your cover letter, but also in terms of finding a job. Because I help students a lot with jobs and internships, but sometimes employers simply, they'll just contact Career Services instead, and so this is a really, really good source that you should take advantage of. And it's gotten a lot better over the last several years. So there's my plug for Career Services. And what else? I'll remind you again, the career fair. Also, if you can't go to the career fair, I've had a couple of you email me and say, hey, I've got to work, I can't go to the career fair, but I attended this presentation on campus, I attended this meeting, I attended some training at work, whatever. That's fine, okay? Just, if you can't go, email me, tell me which section you're in, and either the Section 02 or the Section 90 online class, and I'll be happy to give you the 5 points. It's not a big deal. Now, you saw your test grades. I got those put up, I think, after class on Thursday. The grades probably weren't quite as good as I wanted them to be. They were close, but they weren't quite as good. And so with the 4 additional points, I think the test average ended up being a 73 or 74, something like that, which, again, is pretty close. But hopefully you learned about, how do I prepare for the next test. And if you didn't score as well as you would have liked, if you want to come talk to me, that's fine. I would love to sit down and talk to you and go through, how do you prepare. If you don't understand something, come see me. I think I had, out of 65 students, I think 0 come see me. I'm trying to think if somebody did, but I don't think anybody came to see me before the first test. And so to me, that means you understood the material pretty well. But if you don't, again, that's why I'm here, okay? So come by and talk to me. You can, yes. You can come by. I don't give the test back because it's just big classes. I use some of the questions in various sections down the line again, possibly. But if you want to come by and take a look at your test, you can sit down with your test, your answer key, the test key, and you can go through each question. And if you don't understand something, I can walk you through and show you why that wasn't the correct answer. Okay? And if you want to do that, I would suggest just setting aside some time. Just email me and I'll fix a time, where we can meet. Okay. What else? Career fair. I guess that's about it for right now. A couple of other things. And for some of you, this won't be, only half of this announcement will be pertinent. But this, and I don't think they've come out yet, but this summer, I'm scheduled to teach 2 classes the second summer session. One is Finance 330. The other is Finance 332. I am assuming none of you are going to need to take Finance 330 again. Okay, so that's out of the way. But Finance 332, if you're a finance major, if you're an accounting major, or if you just need a business elective, it's kind of like the second half of this class. So we cover a lot of the same material. It's just in here, when we go through it the first time, sometimes you're kind of like, well, yeah, I sort of understood it. In Finance 332, that's where we sort of cement that knowledge. There will be second summer session. They will both be ITV classes. What that means is I teach from here in Murray typically, downstairs in the classroom with the television screens, but it will broadcast my lecture to Paducah, Hopkinsville, Henderson, and Madisonville, I think. So if you don't live in Murray, if you're going to be somewhere else, you could attend. You could take those classes. And typically, what I do is in the summer, especially with ITV, I will record. They actually record the video presentation and not just the integrity. And so I post that to each class. And so if for some reason you can't make it to every class, and both of them are night classes, so 5 weeks, 2 days per week, or 2 nights per week. So if you can't make it to all of them, you can just watch the lectures and take the class. I call it kind of a hybrid format. And it's pretty easy. I mean, it's almost like an online class, but you don't have to pay online class fees. So if you've got a friend who needs Finance 330, you could let them know about that. If any of you are interested in Finance 332, again, that might be an option. I just wanted to get that out there as you are planning for your summers. All right, so we left off here, I believe. Yeah, I'm kind of, I'm trying to remember. I'm teaching this class. We offer what's called a PMBA program, a professional MBA program. And we offer it at different campuses. Right now we've got one going in Paducah. And so a lot of those students aren't business majors. They're getting an MBA, but they're engineering majors. They're whatever. And so they need Finance 330 as a prerequisite. And so what I do is I go, and in 2 weekends, Friday night and Saturday, so I had it this past weekend, and I'll do it this next weekend, I teach basically this entire class in 2 weekends. So if you think, as we're going through this, that your head is spinning, think about those poor students. 6 to 10 Friday night, 9 to 4 Saturday, for 2 weekends, and we cover pretty much everything that we cover in here. Yes. So you've got it easy. Okay, you only have to listen to me for an hour and 15 minutes at a time. Those poor students, I mean, they're desperate by the end of Saturday. All right. Now, we talked about future value. We're in time value of money. In future value, we were taking cash flows forward in time. We looked at the future value of an annuity. We looked at the future value of... Did we look at the future value of an annuity due, where we changed our calculator to beginning of period payments? We did that, didn't we? Okay. Oh, one other thing. Your first quiz is posted to Canvas. It opens today at 2 o'clock. It closes Saturday at midnight. It covers future value of a lump sum, future value of an ordinary annuity and an annuity due, and present value of a lump sum, which we're going to cover in the next 3 minutes. That's all. There's 5 questions. Okay? You have 20 minutes to take the quiz. You can take it 3 different times. Your highest grade counts. So it should be easy points for you. Okay? And then I will be posting your second quiz either later this week or next week. I'll typically give you 4 or 5 days to take the quiz. All right, now, with present value, what we're doing is we're using the process of discounting. Now, remember, with future value, we use compounding. With present value, we use discounting. We're taking money back in time. So in this case, if we were going to receive $935 in 3 years, and we have a 10% cost of capital or a 10% discount rate, the present value of this is $702.48. So what this essentially means is we're indifferent between having $702.48 right now or $935 3 years from now. It doesn't matter to us. They're both the same dollar amount. And as we calculate this, we've got, again, some different options. This is the formula. And down here, this is the actual, this is the easiest formula to use. This says that the present value is equal to the future value divided by 1 plus r raised to the nth power. So notice, the inputs, you see the same thing that we dealt with future value, only this time we're solving for present value, and instead of multiplying, we're dividing the future value by 1 plus the interest rate raised to the nth power. And then using your financial calculator, these would be your inputs. Again, fairly straightforward. We've got our number of time periods, our interest rate, and in this case, we're entering the future value, and we want to know what is the present value. And so, if we want to calculate this using our financial calculator, now, notice mine is set to beginning of period payments. That might have been where we left off. So, I need to change this back to end of period payments. So, to do that, I'm going to press my second key, and then my payment key. This tells me I'm set to beginning of period payments. I want to change the end of period payments using the set key. So I'm going to press my second key and then the enter key. The word set is right above the enter key. To 1, yeah. And we're going to change that to one payment per year. Now I'm set to end of period payments, and if I press my clear button, you'll notice the letters BGN at the top of the screen here, they go away because we're set to end of period payments. And then I want to check my payments per year, which is right here above my interest per year. So if I press my second key, I/Y, I'm set to 1. If it's not, press 1 and then enter, and then press your clear button for 3 times. And then finally, let's go through the clear process. Second, clear time value of money. Second, clear work. All right, so after all of that checking, changing, clearing, all of this, we're ready to input our 3 variables, solve for the 4th. In this case, it's going to be 3 is our N, press the N key, 10, I/Y, 935 is the future value, and we want to compute the present value. And this tells us it will be $702.48. Again, the negative, that doesn't mean it's a negative cash flow. It just means we just kind of skipped ahead. And again, this is the key here. 935 received 3 periods from today is equal to 702.48 today if you have a 10% required return on your money. Did everybody get the right answer? Yes? Okay. Does anybody need, I've got a couple of calculators up here. Does anybody need to borrow a calculator? What's your question? Okay, press the second key, and then press your payment key. Now press your second key again, and press the enter key. Now if you press your clear button in the bottom left-hand corner 2 or 3 times, the letters BGN should not show up at the top of the screen. Now if you go through your clear process, you should come up with the correct answer. Now again, let me remind you, if you're not coming up with the right answer, please stop me or somebody help each other out, especially if you're in the group using the graphing calculators. It's not an issue. Get up, go help somebody, ask me, ask the person next to you. That's fine. Okay, so 702.48. Did you get the right answer?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Now, this is another present value lump sum example. So let's take a look at this. And again, I just made these numbers up. But let's say, for example, that you had a wealthy relative, and they left you $100,000. But being an intelligent person, they decided not to give you that money right now. And they're going to make you wait until you're 30 so that hopefully maybe you're more mature, you're smarter with your money, whatever the case is. Okay? And so let's assume right now that you are 21 years old. You don't receive the money for 9 years until you're 30, but you want the money right now. You can't wait. So you decide to sell this future cash flow, this future $100,000. And you can do that. You can sell future cash just like you can sell a car. There are companies out there that will do that. One of the, I guess, most well-known companies, because they advertise a lot, is a company called J.G. Wentworth. And you've probably seen some of their pretty crazy commercials. So if you've got they'll say, if you've been injured at work and you've got payments coming in, if you've got an inheritance, if you've got anything that they can legally claim, you can sell it to them. Now, you know this, you've sat through a finance class, so you're thinking, okay, I've seen this company, I'm going to call them, but you're doing some calculations beforehand and you're thinking, okay, what would be an appropriate or a fair rate of return for J.G. Wentworth if they buy my future inheritance? You're thinking something like 6%. So if they make 6% on my money, compared to what you can get at a bank, that's pretty good. So now, J.G. Wentworth, they're going to think a little differently. They're going to think something like 30% plus, 35%, whatever, but 30, we'll start with 30, is a fair rate of return. So let's calculate the present value of $100,000 to be received in 9 years, first using a 6% discount rate, and then using a much larger 30% discount rate. And let's see what happens to the present values. So, in this case, now again, I'm going to go here, and I think I reminded you of this, but I want to make sure, and again, I went over this same stuff this weekend with that class, so I'm not sure what I told them or what I told you. But when you're pressing your second key, sometimes when I say press the second key, students so there I am, they just start pressing the second key 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. And the thing is, notice here in the top left-hand corner of my screen, if I press it one time, it means we are accessing what is above our key. But if I press it a second time, that goes away, and so I'm actually accessing what the key tells us. So if you start just pressing the second key, you may wind up here. You may stop here. Okay, so just press it one time. So I'm going to go through the clear process, second, do all this stuff. Now I'm going to put in my input, so 100,000 is the future value. 9 periods is my N, and 6% is the I/Y in the first example. Now I want to compute the present value. So what this shows us is, if we wanted whoever's buying our future cash flow to receive a 6% return, essentially they're going to give us right now $59,189.85. And then they're going to get the $100,000 in 9 years. And for some people, that's not a problem. They'd say, okay, that's better than nothing right now, so I'll sell my future cash flow. Now, I said that the company buying the cash flow may want a higher rate of return to account for some possible risk. And so they're going to use a 30% I/Y, so we can just change that, 30 I/Y, compute present value. And you can see that as a discount rate increases, the present value gets smaller. In this case, it gets a lot smaller. So if they would give you a check for $9,429.96 today, and they're going to get your $100,000 in 9 years if it's discounted at a 30% rate. Now, would somebody do this? I mean, would somebody sell $100,000 9 years from now for $9,400 today? Yes, that's the correct answer. Someone would. Why would they do that? Ignorance could play a role. Okay, that could be a factor. Desperation is probably more of a factor. Yes. Let's say, for example, I mean, this is an inheritance, but let's say, for example, that you've been hurt, you can't work, and you're waiting for a payout. Okay, but it's not coming for a while, and you have bills to pay right now. They're going to foreclose on your house. They're going to repossess your car. You've got to put food on the table. You've got to keep the electricity on. In those situations, even though you'd like to wait for the full amount, sometimes you can't wait for it. And companies that buy these future cash flows, they know you can't wait for it. And so they're going to offer you typically a really, really small amount for your future cash flow, knowing that you need the money right now and that you will probably take it. I'm not saying it's fair. I'm not saying it's ethical. I'm not saying it's right. That's just how the world works in some situations. Nothing. You'll hear me. She asked a really good question. She said, what is the difference between a discount rate and an interest rate, or the I/Y? I'm going to use these terms interchangeably. Discount rate, interest rate, rate of return, required return, opportunity cost, all those mean the same thing. Okay? As a matter of fact, I think that's a test question on test number 2, is what are some alternative terms for an interest rate? And it's going to be all those: discount rate, rate of return, opportunity cost, that type of thing. So that's a really, really good question. All right, so present value of a lump sum. All right, so what are we doing now? Okay, present value of an annuity. Now again, we said an annuity is a cash flow, it's equal in dollar amount, it's spaced at equal time periods, and there's more than one. So just like with the future value of an annuity, we can calculate the present value of an annuity. And this is what it would look like. This is our timeline. This is a 3-period, $400 annuity. This is the one we've been working with throughout the entire chapter. But instead of taking it forward in time, we're taking each of these back in time. But this is an ordinary annuity, so the cash flows occur at the end of the time period. So here we are at time period 0, the end of the first period, end of the second period, end of the third period. And we're taking them back the appropriate number of time periods. And the present value of this future $1,200 is today $1,089.30 at a 5% discount rate. We can also use, if you wanted to, the formula. There's the formula. And this is the financial calculator solution. So if we're going to calculate this, again, I'm going to go through the clear process: second, clear time value of money; second, clear work. And then I'm going to put my information in. 3 is my N, 5 is my I/Y, and 400 is my payment. Since we're dealing with an annuity, and I want to compute the present value. So if we take these future cash flows back to today, they're worth $1,089.30. Now, you see something like this, and you think, well, you know, I don't have an inheritance coming. I haven't been hurt at work. So, you know, where could I possibly use this? I mean, there's lots of ways, and when we get further into the semester, you'll see that present value in business terms is actually probably a little more useful than future value, because we're going to be calculating the value of bonds, calculating the value of stock, calculating the value of a business, and we're going to use present value to calculate what are they worth today. Also, if anybody ever plays the lotteries, anybody ever buy a lottery ticket? Some of you do? Okay. If you win the lottery, you have two choices. You can take the annuity payments, which are the, let's say you win $20 million, and they're going to pay you $1 million per year for 20 years. Or you can take the lump sum, the cash amount. If you take the lump sum, are they going to give you $20 million in cash right now? No. They're going to give you the present value of a 20-year, $1 million per year annuity, discounted at whatever the lottery corporation typically can earn. So it'll be discounted 5%, 6%, something like that. So that's present value in action. Okay, now this is the present value of an annuity due. So it's the same thing. The only difference is the cash flows occur at the beginning of each period. So if we want to calculate the present value of the annuity due, and here is the formula, we need to change our calculator to beginning of period payments. So let's practice doing that again, just to make sure we're good with this. So right above the payment key, so second payment, second, and then press the enter key to access the set key. You could. Yes, that's a good question. What he said was, what if you win the lottery, and what if you can invest the money and earn a higher rate of return than the lottery corporation could? Would you be better off taking the lump sum and investing it? The answer is yes, you would. Okay? Now, in that case, the risk is all on you and how well you invest. But you could take the lump sum, you could invest it, and if you could earn a higher rate of return, then you would be better off. Now, the thing is, you also have to consider taxes. And so, depending on where the maximum tax rate cuts off, if you win $20 million lump sum, they're going to tax you at whatever the maximum rate is. Okay? If, for example, you have the annuity payments per year, you could fall into a lower tax bracket, so that might be a little something to consider. But most of the time, if you win $20 million, you're just really happy about it. You're not going to be too concerned with a little difference between the tax on the annuity versus the lump sum amount. Again, that's a good question. There's lots of reasons why some people take annuities, some people take lump sums. In some states, the annuity stops when the person that wins the lottery passes away. So if you're 87 and you win the lottery, you probably shouldn't take a 20 or 30-year annuity. Okay, if the winnings don't pass through to your estate when you pass away. In some states they do, some states they don't. You might want to take the lump sum instead and use that. So there is actually some planning that goes into if you win the lottery. All right, so now we're set to beginning of period payments. We can enter our information. 3 is our N, 5 is the I/Y, and 400 is our payment. Compute the present value. So 1,143.76.
So why, when you think of the present value, and not just the annuity with the future value, why when you put in present value and try to calculate future value, like
Why do you enter the payment instead of the present value?
no, I mean like not necessarily about this one, like not one with the payment.
Okay.
Like where you put in zero the payment, and it's like the one that gives us 100,000
Mhm.
future value, then whatever it gave you the present value, why then if you use present value and try to make that calculate the future value, doesn't it give you the right number?
It will. It will. What she's asking is, and that's a good question, if we go back, now I'm going to change here. I'm going to go back really quickly to here. And then let me clear this out. So what she said was the previous example where we had the $100,000, and let's say we discounted it at 6%. So if we go through and we put in 100,000 as the future value, 9 years was our N, and 6 was our I/Y, compute present value. If I think you're asking is, if we put this in as the present value, in N of I/Y of 6%, and compute the future value, what would it equal? It should equal $100,000. Because we can take the money back in time, or we can take it forward in time. So this one now is 59,189.84. So if I put in 59,189.84 as my present value, 9 is my N, 6 as my interest per year, and compute the future value, it's going to be off a little bit due to rounding. It's off by 2 cents, 1 cent due to rounding. But this is what I want you to take from this, okay, is just understand the concept of we're taking money back, we're taking money forward, and that's, if you understand that concept, it means that you can calculate future value items like investing, cost of college, that type of thing, or you can calculate, okay, if I'm going to receive some money in the future, what are they worth? What is it worth today? Would I be better off taking money today rather than 2 or 3 years from today? That type of thing. Okay, so really, really good question. All right, so everybody follow me so far with this? Pretty straightforward. All right. All right, a perpetuity. Let's talk about a perpetuity for just a minute. And fortunately, with the perpetuity, we don't have to deal with our financial calculators. Any calculator will do. A perpetuity, it says here, is a stream of equal payments that are expected to go on forever. So essentially, a perpetuity is an annuity that lasts forever. So that same payment amount, spaced at equal time periods, continues next year, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, 1,000 years from now, theoretically forever. So to calculate the present value of perpetuity, we can simply take the payment that we want to receive forever, the annuity amount, divided by the rate of return that we could earn. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Payment divided by R. And this stands for the present value of perpetuity. So in this case, let's say, for example, that we want to earn $1,000 per year forever. That's the payment that we want to receive forever. And we can earn 10% on our investment. Now, I'm using some nice, easy numbers to work with here just to get us started. So if we enter this information into a formula, the payment is 1,000, which is here. The interest rate is 10%, which is here. 1,000 divided by 0.1 equals a present value of $10,000. What that means is if we invest $10,000 in an account earning 10% interest, what is 10% of $10,000? $1,000. So what that means is we're simply taking the interest created by the $10,000. We're never touching the principal, which is the original $10,000 amount. And so if the interest rate doesn't change, we're going to receive $1,000 in interest payments year after year after year after year. Nothing really magic about it. Okay, we're just using what the money that you invest creates. That's what we're taking out. Now, again, this has a real-life application. Because any of you who have received a scholarship, how many people in here have received some type of scholarship? Quite a few of you. If you've received a scholarship, you are more than likely the beneficiary of a perpetuity. And you didn't even know it. Okay? By the way, try to use that word in a sentence today, perpetuity. Try to work it in somewhere. You'll sound really smart. Okay? Your friends don't know what you're talking about, but you'll sound really smart. Now, the way this works is, most universities have a development office. They're the ones who take donations to the university. And so let's say that you've graduated, 20 years have gone by, you're sitting in your big corner office, you've been really successful, You're thinking, you know what? Man, I remember those great days sitting in Finance 330. It was rainy and cloudy outside. It was pretty damn hot in the classroom, but it was fun. I loved it. So, you know what? I've been successful. I'm going to call Murray State. I'm going to create a scholarship, how much? $5,000 scholarship in the name of my favorite finance professor. And so you pick up the phone, you call Murray State, and you say, I want to create the Dr. Steve Lacewell, by the way, I'm your favorite, the Dr. Steve Lacewell Memorial Scholarship. Okay, $5,000 per year to a deserving student. Sound good? All right. Do you have to be dead to have a memorial scholarship? All right, let's change the name of the scholarship. Remember, this is just 20 years from now, okay? Let's change the name. The Dr. Steve Lacewell Excellence in Finance Scholarship. How about let's leave the memorial part completely the hell out of it, okay? We don't want that. 20 years from now, probably right here, still doing this. All right, so you say, how much do I need to write the check for? Now, the way it works is the university endowment, they invest your money. So they invest some of it in stocks, some of it in bonds, some of it in bank, savings accounts, CDs, that type of thing. And typically they assume they can earn a 5% average rate of return. So in the formula, that's going to be, let me bring up this. So here, the present value of our perpetuity is going to be the $5,000 that you want to receive forever divided by 0.05. And if this is a situation, what is 5,000 divided by 0.05? How much? $100,000. So you would need to write a check for $100,000, and the university would invest it. They earn 5% on the money. That creates $5,000 of return or $5,000 of interest that then goes to a student as a scholarship, and that goes year after year after year after year. Now, the reason that they do it this way, instead of somebody just calling in and say, hey, I want to donate $5,000 for a scholarship this year, is because even if somebody has the best intentions, some problems could pop up. For example, the person who currently has $5,000 per year to give away, maybe they lose their job and they can't donate for the scholarship the next year. Or that person eventually is going to pass away, okay? They can't donate. So with this, the university knows how much it's going to have each year going forward. So when they promise you a scholarship, they don't have to call you a week before classes start and say, oh, by the way, sorry, but the person that donated for the scholarship passed away unexpectedly, and we can't give you the $5,000. Okay? And so this is what's called a university endowment. Private universities, typically, Ivy League universities, they're expensive. We saw that in our example of calculating what it costs to go to college. But one thing that private universities typically have is they have a lot of money donated to them. So people donate money, they donate property, they donate lots of things. And the university invests that money, and typically, if they have a really, really large endowment, so maybe $1 billion or more, that creates a lot of money for scholarships. And so if you go to a very expensive private university, oftentimes they have a really good financial package that will help alleviate a lot of the costs.
Universities ever use that interest money to just develop the school more, or is it mainly to the development office mainly just for scholarships?
It depends on what you donate the money for. You can stipulate, I want the money to go to scholarships in general. I want the money to go to this specific scholarship, or you might donate it to go to athletics or to classroom innovation or whatever. So you can stipulate what you want the money to go for. So is this making sense? Now, sometimes the stock market has a problem. Maybe we're having some bad years financially in the stock market, and so occasionally the university has to drop down to a 3% rate of return. And so if the same situation occurs where you want the $5,000 scholarship, but the university only earns 3%, how large is the check you're going to have to write earning 3% interest to cover the $5,000 scholarship? It's going to be a lot larger check because it's earning less interest, and so if it's earning less interest, it has to be more principal to earn the same amount of money. Okay? This happens every single day here at the university. And when they try to raise money, I can guarantee you, when you graduate, one number that you're going to see pop up a lot is Murray State University calling to ask you for money. And again, that's just how it works. And if you pay any attention to the budget situation that's happening right now and budget cuts, what the state of Kentucky and what lots of states are telling their universities is that, okay, historically, we have made up most of your operating budget. We've simply given you tax money, but that's changing. So what they're doing, they're making massive cuts to what they're giving us, and they're saying, okay, you're going to have to come up with a lot of this yourself, being donated by guess who? You, when you graduate. And also part of it's going to be based on some metrics in terms of performance. Now the problem that we're having right now is they haven't told us what those metrics are based on performance. Well, that's kind of tough to judge going forward, but this is becoming an increasingly important part of higher education. And again, that's why really good schools, that's why they're really good, is because people have graduated, they've been successful, they've given money back to the university, which has allowed, again, them to recruit better students, and there's a snowball effect. But that's what we're wanting to do. I mean, that's what every university wants to do, but we're pushing that here because, we have to have that money to recruit better students and to provide financial packages. So is this making sense here? Kind of how this works in your everyday life? All right. Okay, so perpetuity. Okay, next is uneven or a mixed stream of cash flows. Now, when we talked about the future value of an uneven or mixed stream of cash flows, I said that the easiest way to do this is simply to calculate the future value one period at a time and add them together. But with present value, we can actually take a shortcut with our financial calculator, and we're going to use what's called the cash flow register, the CF key. And so let's say we have this mixed stream of cash flows occurring in the future, and we want to know what is it worth right now. So we're going to receive $400 in 1 year, $300 in 2 years, and $250 in 3 years. And we've got a 5% discount rate. Again, one way of doing this is we can simply take the present value of each of these one at a time and calculate their present values, add them up, and they would equal $869.02. That'll work. That's fine. But we can also use, and this is our formula, we can also use a financial calculator. Now, before you look at this and go, wow, that's a lot of stuff, okay? I know that. This is not meant to be technically the way you would present information on a PowerPoint slide. If you take this and try to do this in class, your professor is going to say there's too much stuff, it's too small, you're losing the attention of your audience, okay? I know that. This is meant to be a step-by-step directions in terms of how do you use the cash flow register. So, for those of you, if you forget, you're practicing later on, you can come back to this and it'll walk you step by step. Now, what this says is, and let me go, let's see, okay, let me go here, is we're going to calculate the present value of this. And so to do that, I'm going to press first my CF key, the cash flow key. Now, for yours, it may pop up with 0 here, but with mine, I was working with a problem previously that had some cash flows in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press my second key and just the clear work key in the bottom left-hand corner. What that does is it clears out any old cash flows from previous problems. And that's really important because this problem has 3 cash flows. Let's say the last one you worked had 6 cash flows. You may decide, I don't want to clear it, I'm just going to put information over the cash flows from the last problem. And that's fine if you do the first 3. The problem is you still have 3 additional cash flows from the last problem that if you don't go through and clear those out, they're still there and they're going to be part of your answer. You're going to get some strange numbers. So we've cleared it out. What you see here, this is the cash flow at time period 0. Right now, we typically will not have a cash flow at time period 0. You can see in our problem, we don't. So now, these up and down arrow keys tell you that these arrows are going to allow you to move through this function. And the great thing is, you can't mess up because if you just start pressing your down arrow key, you're going to work your way back around to where you started. Or you can press your up arrow key and work your way back. It doesn't matter. So this is 0. That's what we want. So I'm going to press my down arrow key one time. And it now says C01. This is the cash flow at time period 1. That is $400. So I'm just going to put in 400. And it tells me at the top of the screen to press my enter key to lock it in. If you don't press the enter key, it's going to go back to 0. Now I'm going to press my down arrow key again. It says F01. This is the frequency of cash flow 1. So what this asks is how many times in a row does the first cash flow occur? That's the key, in a row. It only occurs one time. The default is 1, so we're going to leave it there. If it's not, for example, if you want to change it or whatever, you can just press 1 and then the enter key. Then you're going to press your down arrow key again. So you can kind of see how this works. You're just putting in the right cash flow and just pressing your down arrow key until you have them all in. Cash flow 2 is 300, so 300. Press the enter key to lock it in. Press the down arrow key. The frequency is 1, which is where we want it to be. So I'm going to press the down arrow key again, and cash flow 3 is 250. And then press the enter key. Now, you can get in the habit, you can press your down arrow key again, make sure the frequency is 1, which it should be. If you press the down arrow key again, what it's going to do is it's going to take you forward one time period, and then it's going to take you back around the time period 0. So it'll say cash flow 4, which should be 0. We don't have one. The frequency of cash flow 4 is 0, and then it's going to start you back again. So it's good practice to go through and take a look to make sure all of your cash flows are in there. Now, the next step is, once we've done this, is we're going to press the, let me get back here, the NPV key. That's directly to the right of your cash flow key. It stands for net present value. NPV. It's going to ask for an interest rate or a discount rate. In this case, our discount rate is 5%, so I'm just going to put 5 and then press the enter key to lock it in. Now I'm going to press the down arrow key. If I could stop pressing everything else, press the down arrow key one time, and it tells me to press my compute key to come up with a solution. And the present value of these 3 cash flows is $869.02. Yeah, it will do it. The different payments. What it'll do is you've got to put in your cash flows, and I think you put like the 400 commas 1. It's the number of cash. We'll talk about it. Somebody figure this out with the, because I know it will walk you through it on. You may figure it out on the TI 84, 85, 86, 87. Okay. it will do it, okay? So we'll come back to that in a minute. Okay, so if you're using the B82 Plus, everybody come up with 869.02. Yes? Okay. Now, okay, so those are your instructions. Okay. If, when you use your financial calculator, again, this is one of the really nice things about it is if you're solving for something other than present value or future value, for example, if you wanted to know the interest rate or the number of time periods using the formula, then algebraically you have to solve for the missing variable. With your calculator, as long as you have 3 variables, you can solve for the 4th. And so, I mean, that saves you a lot of time and effort. So, if you are, for example, looking for an interest rate, in this example, you know it says you pay $78.35 today for an investment that promises $100 in 5 years. What rate of return are you earning on this investment? So we're putting in this amount today for 5 years, N of 5. This is our future value, and we want to compute, in this case, the I/Y. So if we bring up our financial calculator, and now, this is really important because if you're entering a present value and a future value, the present value has to be entered as a negative number. Otherwise, you're going to get an error 5 message on your calculator. Okay, so what it's saying is you're taking $78.35 out of your pocket today, negative cash flow, putting it in. 5 years later, you're taking $100 out and putting it back into your pocket, a positive cash flow. So $78.35 negative is your present value, 5 is your N, and 100 is your future value. And in this case, we want to compute the I/Y. And it tells us the interest rate here is 5% per year for this investment. And we can do this for a variety of, this will walk you through that. This is time periods. If you've got the present value, you know the future value, and you know the rate of return, but you don't know the time periods, we can calculate that also, and this would be the way we would do that. Again, making sure your present value is negative. All right, so everybody good so far with this? All right. Now, one thing that we haven't talked about so far, or what we've actually focused on so far, is in all of our problems, interest is compounded annually, one time per year. And the reason that we start out that way is because it's simply easier to work with. And so as you're learning this information, we always have annual compounding. In reality, some investment products or some accounts compound interest more often than annually. Some compound semi-annually, some compound quarterly, some compound monthly, some compound daily. And so we need to be able to handle this and handle these changes to calculate this. So this is basically saying, okay, we've got the future value lump sum. Which one would be larger, semi-annual compounding or annual compounding? The answer would be semi-annual compounding, because the more frequent the compounding, the more interest your money earns. So if you're depositing money, you want to deposit money in an account compounding money as frequently as possible. If you're borrowing money, you want to have a loan that compounds as infrequently as possible, which means you're going to pay less interest. So again, understanding compounding frequency, whether you're investing or borrowing, makes a big difference in how much you earn or how much you pay, depending on which side that you're on. Now, with this, if we're going to calculate this using our financial calculator, in your book, the number of compounding periods per year is going to be denoted by the letter M. And the key here is we're going to leave our calculator set to 1 payment per year. We're going to make our changes manually by just multiplying and dividing, and solve it just like we already have. Okay, so it's nothing complicated. We're going to divide the interest rate by M, the number of compounding periods per year, and we're going to multiply N by M. So, for example, if we have semi-annual compounding, which is this example, we've got a present value of 1,000, N of 5, interest per year of 10, and we want to first compute the future value assuming semi-annual compounding. Well, this is what we would do to our inputs. Present value is not changed. It doesn't matter whether it's semi-annual, quarterly, whatever. It doesn't change. N, remember, we're changing to semi-annual increments. So now we're changing everything to 6-month increments. So N is now, instead of being 5 years, N is now 5 times 2, or 10 6-month periods. And then the interest that you earn per year is not 10% per year. It's 10 divided by 2, or 5% every 6 months. So we put in 1,000 as our present value, 10 as our N, 5 as our interest per year, compute the future value. And we could do the same thing for quarterly compounding, except we multiply and divide by 4. Because interest is compounded every 3 months, 4 times per year. And so the question here is, which is larger? Well, which one would be larger, quarterly or semi-annual compounding, all else equal? Quarterly compounding, because interest is compounded more often. Interest earns interest faster. And the reason is simply because the more frequent compounding. Now, you may read something in your book about something called continuous compounding, or you may see some problems in the back of the chapter about continuous compounding. You are not responsible for that. Okay? That's more of a theoretical item. In a Finance 330 class, you really don't have to know anything about continuous compounding. Okay? And by the way, that reminds me, if you look at the suggested homework questions, normally for most chapters I'll have, 2 questions or about 4 or 6 or whatever at the end of each chapter. If you go to Canvas and look at the suggested homework questions for Chapter 5, I have all of the questions listed, except for continuous compounding. And the reason is, to understand this and to get good at working with your calculator, you have to work a lot of problems. So there's about 40 plus problems at the end of the chapter. If you work all of those and you're saying, hey, I need more to work, that's fine. I will find you more problems to practice with. Okay? But you have to practice with these different problems. They're listed. They'll be on Canvas at the very top of your Canvas homepage. It'll say suggested homework problems, and then under that will be the solutions. But if we're going through this, if any time you want to work on a problem that you don't understand, I'll be happy to take some time in class to go through that and work that problem to make sure that everybody's is on the same page. Okay, a couple of more. Let's see what we got. Okay, we got a little bit more time, so let's go ahead and knock a little bit more of this out. Another thing that you need to be familiar with is how to convert between what's called a nominal interest rate and an effective interest rate. You also need to know the definition of each of these. So, the nominal interest rate, that's the rate typically that is given to us in, for example, a loan contract. So when I say that, or in the examples that we've been doing, if I say that we invest money and earn 8% per year, that's the nominal rate of interest. The effective rate is the rate that you actually pay or that you earn. Now, the thing is, if we have annual compounding, so this is really important, if we have annual compounding, 1 time per year, the nominal rate always equals the effective rate of interest. There's no change. But if we have more frequent annual compounding, the effective rate, the amount that you're paying or earning, is always going to be higher than the nominal rate of interest. And again, this is important if you're depositing money or if you're borrowing money to know what are you actually paying or earning. Now, you can calculate this a couple of different ways. You can convert from a nominal, or another name for that is a simple rate. You can convert from the nominal rate to the effective rate. This is the formula. And although it looks pretty nasty, it's actually not, because all you're doing, you're plugging in your simple interest rate here. You're dividing by the number of time periods per year. You're raising it to the number of time periods per year, and you're subtracting 1. So it's not extremely complicated. But, and again, you will be given this formula on your formula sheet for the second test. So this is what it would look like. Let's say we've got a 10% nominal or simple interest rate. It's compounded semi-annually, which is 2 times per year. This is our formula, so we're just going to plug the information in. It's 1 plus our simple interest rate, nominal rate, 10%, 0.10, divided by 2, which is our M, raised to the second power, minus 1. And so that means we're actually paying or earning, in this case, not 10%, but 10.25%. So this is one way that we can do it. Also, on your financial calculator, if you take a look at it, it has a interest rate conversion function. So if we pull up our financial calculator, and right above the number 2 key, it will say ICONV. That stands for interest conversion. And so if we press our second key and the number 2 key, it's going to ask for a nominal rate of interest. In this case, the nominal rate, well, actually here, you probably want to, you don't have to, but you probably want to get in the habit of pressing your second and your clear work button just to clear out the inputs. Now, our nominal rate in this example is 10%. So we'll put it as a whole number, 10, press the enter key. You're going to press the down arrow key twice. It's going to ask for the compounding periods per year. In this case, that is 2, the semi-annual compounding. So 2, enter. Now press your up arrow key 1 time, and it says the effective rate equals, and we have to press our compute key. The effective rate is 10.25%, which is what it shows here. And so with this, I mean, what we'll show is the more frequent the compounding. For example, if we compound 4 times per year, the effective rate gets higher. If we compound monthly, which is 12 times per year, the effective rate gets higher. So as I said earlier, the more frequent the compounding, the higher the interest rate. If you're depositing money, that's good. If you're borrowing money, that's not so good. So everybody follow me on this? Yes?
So the effective rate is just what the nominal rate would be if it was compounded once a year?
The effective rate, well, the effective rate, it would be, because if we take a look at this formula, the nominal rate here, if it's just compounded 1 time per year, we're dividing by 1, raising to the first power, minus 1, and so it's going to equal the same thing. Yeah. All right, so, and then this, we'll walk you through that if you need to go back and take a look at it later. And that's probably a good place to stop for today. On Thursday, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about loans, something really, really important for you to understand. So how to calculate loans, how to finance a car, how to finance a house, what's good, what's not so good, etc. So everybody have a great day. Remember your quiz. Number 1 should open at 2 o'clock. It will be open until Saturday at midnight. You can take it 3 times. Highest grade counts. Career fair tomorrow. If you go, bring me a business card. Have a good day. I'll see you Thursday.